What's up, folks? It's Jang here from UltimateRC.com with a RC hot topic. I haven't done this in a little while, so for the return of the series, I've picked a really tough topic. The question is, this or this? The HPI Apache C1 Flux ready to run, or the Axial EXO Terra buggy? Which one is better? Which one is a better value? A lot of folks have been asking this question for quite some time. I've gone ahead and done lots and lots of driving with both of them, more with this one actually. I have done full reviews on both of them, so if you want to see my individual thoughts about each one in its own little world, you can see my full reviews of those on my channel, and they're under the reviews playlist, of course. But which one between the two of them is better? Well, the easiest way to answer that question is just to say, well, they're both great. They're both RCs and they both go and they're both awesome and they look great. I'm not going to do that. In this case, I actually very firmly believe that one of these is better than the other, period. But let me first break it down a little bit, just competition between the two on some individual points. First of all, I think the biggest thing is size that folks would first think about or first see when comparing the two of these. There was a lot of talk early on when these were first being, when they were being pre-ordered, basically after they had been announced, but they had not been released to the public yet, about how the HPI was going to be a 1/8 scale, but we didn't know what the Axial was going to be, whether it was going to be 10th scale or 1/8 scale. Well, the actual answer is kind of tricky, but let me break it down for you like this. The EXO is 1/10 scale, but it's the exact same size, or almost the exact same size, as a traditional 1/8 scale buggy. This is built to short course specs. Short course trucks, as you may have seen if you've seen anybody put a buggy body on a short course truck or a short course truck body on an 1/8 scale buggy, they are the same size. So this is the size of an 1/8 scale buggy, yet it is technically, if you actually compare the scale of how they've tried to do things, compare this to the size of a full-sized 4-seat desert pre-runner style buggy, it is 1/10. So why then, if this is the same size as a 1/8 scale buggy, is this so much larger? There's a big difference there in overall presence as well as actual size. You can see there the difference in wheelbases between the two, and just everything about the Flux over here, the Apache, is larger. This is truly a 1/8 scale model vehicle. If you compare the dimensions on this to a full-size, full-scale Class 1 racing buggy, you will see that this is 1/8 of a full-scale, of the full-scale dimensions. So that's really confusing. Bottom line is, this one's a lot bigger. This one is the size of an 1/8 scale buggy. This one is bigger than an 1/8 scale buggy, even though technically it is 1/8 scale size. What HPI basically did here was they took a 1/8 scale buggy and they put a truggy chassis on it. So it's much longer than a couple inches actually longer on the wheelbase at least, compared to your standard 1/8 scale buggy. So as far as size ends up working its way out, the C1, the Apache, the HPI is significantly bigger. Price, value. Do you get your money's worth between these two? Which one is more expensive? Well, this one, as of the time of this video, you may be watching this later on, but as of the time of this video, the EXO is only available as a kit, and that the price of that kit, depending upon where you get it, you're going to get it for between $320 to $350 for the kit. No electronics whatsoever, just gives you a rolling chassis once you fully assemble it. The C1 Flux over here, the Apache, is about $650 ready to run with a full complement of electronics, a 2.4 gigahertz radio system, a brushless motor system with a true 1/8 scale sized brushless motor, and a 4S capable ESC. Technically it's a 6S capable ESC, but in something the size of this, it's limited to 4S for safe usage. So your outright costs for the Apache are much higher until you start putting electronics into this one. It depends upon what type of components that you choose to use in your kits. You can spec out an Axial EXO to be cheaper than an Apache, but it's also very easy to spec out an EXO without going into hop-ups and upgrades, just with the motor system and the radio and whatnot. Not even getting into a really expensive radio, but just even with a basic radio, depending upon what ESC, motor combo, and what servo you put in here, you can make this much more expensive. So it's pretty much a wash, depending upon how you outfit it, a wash in terms of the price between these two. But what about the value? Obviously, like I said, the Apache is based on a 1/8 scale buggy platform, so everything is beefier about it. All the parts are 8th scale class, 8th scale size. Huge shocks, though they are plastic bodied, they're very large. They don't have adjustable turnbuckles on this one, unfortunately, but what they do give you are these plastic links that are themselves very large in size. Your A-arms are very large. The whole drivetrain is super, super, super durable. It has really thick aluminum hinge pin blocks and mounts and large-sized differentials and Mod 1 gears. You get a lot more stuff here, even just looking at the rolling chassis versus a rolling chassis, not looking at the electronics that are in here. So on the surface, I personally would think that you're getting more. If they're about the same cost once you outfit them, I feel like you're getting more with this, with the C1. You know, it's true 8th scale class, while this is built more to 10th scale specs, where all the parts are smaller, the shocks are smaller. It's designed only to hold a 2S LiPo pack. This one will take 4S easily. And if you change out the electronics, then you can go up to 6S easily with this vehicle, and it's really built to handle it. So I definitely think that you're getting more for this, more stuff. But then the final question is, how do they perform in the real world compared to each other? Definitely check out my raw driving videos that have no music and minimal editing to see for yourself how these two vehicles drive with minimal tuning. I didn't have to do much tuning to the Axial EXO compared to the way that they tell you to build it right from the kit, right from the manual. Whereas with the Apache C1, I did everything that I could within reason and couldn't figure out how to tune this to make it better. It fundamentally needs some other parts in order to get this to work better. This is over a 10-pound vehicle right here. And unfortunately, the suspension is I'll talk more about that in detail in the review. So if you want to see really what I'm talking about there, check out the review. I'm pretty decent at tuning suspension. I've been tuning suspension for a long time. I really enjoy tuning suspension. I've read books about tuning suspension. This one I was able to get going just fine. Plenty of vehicles I've been able to get going just fine. This one needs some changes, some actual part changes to it, and not just one. Not just simple things. The handling on the Apache C1 Flux to me is terrible. Upgrade the tires, fine. Change your shock oil. It's going to actually get worse before it gets better. Change your springs. Again, it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's really not, the suspension doesn't have enough range of motion to really handle the weight of this vehicle once it's fully equipped. And I just had a horrible, horrible, horrible driving experience with it all around. You can get it to drive okay if you're a really good driver. It'll drive great as long as you don't take it too far off the ground and as long as you don't turn at speed. It really needs to be driven more in scale speeds, scale ways over scale jumps if you want it to stay on all fours. Otherwise, it is very quick to tumble and turn and flip and bottom out. It's a mess. It's really a mess. Whereas the Axial EXO, much to many people's surprise, myself included, for the first time that Axial has made a vehicle that's really, really meant to go fast, change the shock oil, change the shock mounting positions a little bit, and you're set. Even with the stock tires, it's not that bad, but in general, the handling characteristics are very good. The weight balance on it is very good. The responsiveness of it is very good. It's very predictable. It handles high speed well. It handles low speed well. It has lots of steering, but it doesn't oversteer too much unless you've got the stock tires on and you're running on loose dirt in really loose conditions. Then you can steer with the rear a little bit, but you can adjust the diff oils to change the way that works a little bit, to change its how it distributes its power from front to rear and from side to side. But in general, this thing in the handling department absolutely blows away the Apache C1. So when it comes down to performance between the two, when it comes down to actually using these, it's Axial hands down, without a question, period, end of story. Again, just look at the videos, the plain driving videos. Don't take my word for it. Look at other people's driving videos of both vehicles and compare them. Not stuff that's super chopped up, edited up to show you just the best parts, but just, you know, folks going out there with their iPhone or even a good camera, just giving you plain driving footage and see how the two perform relative to each other. The other thing is that's actually important between these two is how easy they are to work on, and actually how easy they are to even put a battery into them. That's actually a big deal for both of these because they both have these large scale looking cages, and everything's all sealed and enclosed on both of them, which can make it very difficult to get to a lot of the components. Fortunately, HPI just completely blows away Axial in that department, because with the HPI you take out a handful of body clips and this entire structure here, I already took the clips out, but all that just comes off just like that. Here's your battery compartment. It's adjustable. You just put your battery right on from the top. You can adjust your motor mesh from just screws underneath. You can get to your receiver if you need to. You can change out your servo if you need to. You can adjust your servo saver if you need to. Everything is there. You can get to your diffs actually pretty easily, just like on a standard 1/8 scale buggy. This is a brilliant system that they came up with, and this is a very heavy and actually intricate assembly here with a bunch of different parts and even different types of materials used, just creating this roll cage with the little driver figures in there, the little driver busts and a little bit of interior detail. But fundamentally, it's easy to get to stuff, and it still kind of works like a body. It's a little bit tougher to get to stuff than on, say, a short course truck or any other vehicle that has a pure Lexan body, but it's pretty good. I really cannot complain at all. Compare that to the Axial EXO, and I've got 2 whole videos talking about or showing you just how to change the battery on this, how to install a battery, how to remove a battery. It is a pain in the butt. It is a major, not even an inconvenience, it's almost an offense to the RC community as a whole, what they expect you to go through to change a battery on this, unless you have a really skinny, tiny little soft case 2,000 milliamp hour, maybe 3,000 milliamp hour 2S battery or something like that. Even then, it's quite a bit of a pain. You can't just easily take off everything like on here. They do give you a little door over here on the side, and if you've seen my review video or my videos on changing the battery, you've seen this too many times already. They give you a door here. The 2 body clips opens up and gives you access. But what you don't see here is that I've already taken out a part of the cage that comes down right here and just stops you from being able to put a battery in there. Also, there's this interior piece which looks really nice, except it doesn't have drivers for some reason. But that gets in the way and really just forces you to squeeze and scrape up your fingers and your hands, and it's tough to route your your wires around behind there. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And then if you want to do something fancy, like let's say you want to adjust your gear mesh or change your pinion gear or get access to your ESC to make a programming change on it, well, then you have to remove the entire cage. Not quite as easy as with this guy. Not at all. It's 16 screws. You have to remove your front shocks at the top. You have to remove your front shocks at the bottom after removing both rear tires. I guess you can kind of get in there without removing the tires, but you need to do that. And then there's a ton of screws on the bottom that you have to remove all the way around it to be able to extract this thing. And what you're left with is kind of a half of a vehicle with no rear suspension on it, because the shocks come off with the cage. And it's a major pain and letdown and disappointment and aggravation. So to work on this thing is pretty much a dream. I couldn't ask for it to be much easier than it is, and I already think that it's in the plus by letting you take something so complex off so easily. But it just beats the crap out of the Axial EXO. When it comes down to it though, RCs are meant to be driven. And once you figure out the right setup for the Axial EXO, just go with it. Take out your interior if you want to. I think that's going to be a good idea for your sanity. Possibly take out the one vertical post on the roll cage that I mentioned to give you better access to your battery tray, or take out one of the horizontal runners in there to give you better access through the windshield. Just do that. It's going to make life much easier, and you end up with a vehicle that you can just drive and drive and drive and drive, and it drives great. The only things that you might need to change on it would be suspension setup just a little bit depending upon where you're driving, and of course tires. You know, they give you usable tires, but they're not great. They're very usable, but they're not great. But they use standard short course wheels and tires, so it's easy to get replacements for them. This guy over here does use standard 1/8 scale buggy wheels. The ones that come on it are not standard. They're completely proprietary, but you can just swap in some regular ones here. But this has so many other problems, so many fundamental problems with the way that it drives, and the weight of the thing in general, for the amount of suspension travel that it has, for its width, no. That's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on these two compared to each other. Axial EXO Terra buggy versus HPI Apache C1. Which one? This one. By far, hands down. I would take this any day. It's a lot of pain to work on it when you're first getting it set up. But once you get it set up, once you do a couple of things, remove a couple of things to make it easier to change out the battery with it, you've got a superior vehicle here. Handles just great, and ultimately it is the winner. So those are my thoughts. That's not to say that this is a horrible vehicle. It's not to say that this is a vehicle that you cannot drive. There are plenty of folks out there, I'm sure, who would enjoy this just as it is, and just keep it, you know, kind of closer to the ground, slow down a lot in turns, or be willing to just go after it when it flips over. It certainly looks great, and I'm actually missing the fake spare tire that they give you on the back that makes it look even better. It's a great scale replica of a Class 1 racing buggy. Just looking at it, it's definitely something that you want to have when you just look at it, but when it comes down to actually driving it, for me, no. You can do so much better as an RC that you actually drive, and you can just get the regular buggy version of this. The Vorza doesn't look quite as nice, but it handles a billion times better, and you can make it handle even better still for way less money. So those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Hope that was useful. A lot of people have asked me this question personally: which one do I prefer? Now you know. Talk to you again later.